in such like sarcasm, but in a fun way. And Betty has this sort of like naivety, but she just has this hope about her. You guys have to read it. I said in my review, like, I didn't know that festive sobbing was a thing, but I did it. I just wish that the book was longer. Well, hello, I'm Erica. I am odd. And is that magical time of the month? Not that. Anyways, we're off to a great start. It is time to talk about my November reads. I'm already deep into my December reads. I'm actually listening to several audiobooks right now, so I feel like December will actually have a lot to review. However, November does have a lot to review. We have 6 books to talk about, so I figured we'd jump right in. November felt like the longest month of my life, obviously because I was going through personal things, but wow, what a kidney stone of a month. Anyways, let's start on one of the very first days in November. I was finishing up one of my thrillers that I started in October. It was an audiobook, but it honestly wasn't grasping me. And that book is Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. Listen, I got this free on Libby. By the way, I've been using Libby and Hoopla like crazy. If you don't have a library card, get you a library card. I want to do a whole video on how to read on a low or no budget, because you don't have to go spend a bunch of money to be a reader, and I firmly believe that. Do I enjoy book shopping? Yes. Do I enjoy free books? Also, yes. I digress. I listened to Night of the Mannequins on Libby. It was a short little novella. I think it was like 3 hours. I do listen to my audiobooks at about 1.8 to 2.1, depending on the book and how slow the narrator's reading it. I gave this book 3.2 stars because here's the thing. I said in my review on Goodreads, it was a fun, quick little thriller. It was pretty predictable. It's definitely more of a psychological thriller. It's sort of like it wants to be the silent patient when it grows up. It was giving me those vibes where like you first start out, you think it might be a paranormal thriller. You think it might be a like evil thriller. It's not. It is a psychological thriller. About a half an hour in, I could predict the ending. Nevertheless, it was a fun, quick little read. So if you're looking for something to just spend 3 hours listening to just pass the time, I'd recommend it. It's not the worst read, however, it's not super riveting. Do with that information what you will. The next book that I read and that I was so excited for is B.K. Borson, Good Spirits. I am so obsessed with this book to the point that I actually got it for one of my best friends for her birthday because she's a November baby. My other bestie got it for her book of the month. So I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. You guys have to read it. I said in my review, like, I didn't know that festive sobbing was a thing, but I did it. It is essentially about Ghost of Christmas Past. Candle was leaning weird, I thought, in the reflection. Strange. Anyways, it is essentially about Ghost of Christmas Past, and he is visiting a woman who turns out to be not so much of a Scrooge. It's sort of a Christmas Carol inspired romance. It has nothing to do with the original Christmas Carol, so if that's what you're thinking it's gonna be, think again. We follow Harriet York, who runs her aunt's bookstore, right? And the ghost of Christmas Past haunting her is Noah Callahan, an Irishman who passed away. I don't know exactly when, they don't say, but it feels very early 1900s, late 1800s. And it sort of explores both of their lives in a way that neither of them were expecting. And it's sort of a right person, wrong time. It's giving the movie Ghost. It's very much soulmates. It's very much what ends of the earth would you go to understand and be with the person that you love. And I sobbed. Now, is that because I'm recovering from a breakup? Sure. Duh. And I thought that like going through a breakup I would not want to read romance at all. I've doubled down. My therapist said it's a good thing. So take that as you will. However, I was sobbing. We need Irishmen from the 1900s who yearn. That's what we need. If I had to recommend one book for sure that I think everybody can love for the Christmas season, it's gonna be this one. The next ones I talk about, kind of hit or miss. They kind of have to be within your wheelhouse, but this one, it is sweet. It has a perfect amount of spice. It has the perfect amount of magic and like what it is to love someone and love them for their entirety, and it will make you cry. Gave it 5 stars. Has become one of my favorite authors this year, I'm telling you. Oh my gosh. Okay, next up is Bottle Rocket by Kenna King. As we know, I'm making my way through the Hawkeye's Rookie series as they release, because it's one of my favorite hockey romance series. As we've gone over, cheesy, all of the cheese. None of it is realistic, and we love her for that. I'm telling you, the rest of this series just needs to come out. It is so incredible, and I just absolutely love it. However, I did give Bottle Rocket 4.7 stars. Here's why. So we follow Vivi and Trey, and Vivi is actually the little sister of the other Newport that we read about in the previous series. Here's why it got 4.7 stars and not 5. I did not enjoy how similar Vivi's story was to her sister's. It was another nanny, single dad romance, just like her sister's story. It was very similar. Both of them sort of running away from things and having it all sort of fall into place to resolve itself. And it's not my absolute favorite that they kind of didn't take charge of their life. Like, they both kind of had to have permission given to them to like step into their own life and run their own life. Not my fave. However, I did love Vivi and Trey. It was adorable. I loved the aspect of sort of this like running away from an arranged marriage type thing. And I loved the outcome of that as well. I love Trey. I love his backstory. I like that we made him ex-military. I love how smart Trey's kid was in it too, where she's the whole time she's like, you're gonna fall in love. Spoiler alert, in a romance book they fall in love. I love that from the beginning she was like, you guys are gonna fall in love and she's gonna be my new stepmom. So if you could just like get on that, would really make my life easier. It also does give more Christmas. They have ice skating and hot cocoa movie nights, and it's very, very adorable. And so it does give more Christmas, even though it's not specifically placed during Christmas. It has the same energy. 4.7 stars. Alright, the next one is Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal by Megan Quinn. By the way, Megan Quinn and I were DMing on Instagram about bobcats and about how my dad almost took home a baby bobcat one time. Fine, you twisted my arm. Here's the story. So, we were visiting my great-grandmother. We were talking about like getting another cat because I grew up with a lot of pets. Fun fact, I am allergic to animals, don't care. And I wasn't at the time, it kind of happened when I was older. However, does that stop me? Anyways, so we were like toying with the idea of getting another cat, and I'm like 10. And so we're like, okay, we said sort of like, okay, if we find a kitten, that's like the universe being like, okay, it's time for another cat. Cut to like 4 or 5 in the morning. My dad's up because we have weird sleep schedules, but my dad's awake and he's outside getting something out of the car. He hears like meowing and he looks over and it's this little like fuzzball kitten. He picks it up. He's like, huh, this thing's really cute. And it starts to like hiss, and it sounds a bit different than a normal like kitten hiss. And he's looking at it more, and its fur is kind of wiry, and it's got longer like tufts on its ears, but we had a Maine Coon at the time. So he was like, okay, maybe this is a Maine Coon kitten again. And he's just looking at it, and then he hears a growling from behind him. And that was Mama Bobcat. And so, honestly, being in Georgia, we were lucky it wasn't a mountain lion. And so he slowly just put the kitten down and like backed away and was like, hey, there's your little offspring, Mama Bobcat. Don't do it. Don't take me out. Here's your family. I'm gonna go to my family. You know what I mean? And the Mama Bobcat didn't do anything except get her kitten and like run off. Very lucky. So Megan Quinn posted a photo on Instagram of a bobcat in her backyard, and I like shared the little story. We talked about it a little bit. I had to brag. Anyways, back to Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal. I've talked about this I think in 1 or 2 vlogs, but not in depth. I gave this 5 stars. So it is the sequel to How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, and we follow Atlas, aka Max, and Betty. This is kind of technically, I would say, a grumpy sunshine, except they're both kind of grumpy at times. Very much like the fun type of miscommunication of like, what are you doing here? Well, what are you doing here? Not in the weird way of like just not communicating at all. It involves getting snowed in. It involves a one-bed situation. It starts out as enemies, ends with lovers. It is very cute. I love Atlas. I think that he's so fun. Or Max, whatever you want to call him. I think he's so fun. He's so funny. I think he's funnier than any of the characters besides himself, obviously, in the first book. He has such wit and such personality and such like sarcasm, but in a fun way. And Betty has this sort of like naivety, but she just has this hope about her that I think really embodies the Christmas spirit without it being overtly in your face. It was still just a fun whimsy about her. Yeah, she was a whopping 446 pages. This 10-hour audiobook. Settle in when you read it. You're not going to want to put it down. Make sure you have some time. But a 5-star. The next book I technically read, but I DNF'd, is Faking Christmas by Carrie Winfrey. Again, I read this on Libby, or I listened to it on Libby. I DNF'd it 60%, and I will say, if I DNF a book like 2% in, I don't count it towards my reading goal. However, if I get 40 to 60% in or beyond that and I DNF a book, I'm counting it towards my reading goal. I said in my review it has a good bones to be a rom-com. The boss in it is giving like Michael Scott at Christmas if he like got divorced and just encroaching on his employees' Christmas. The reason I DNF'd it is because it was so repetitive of, yes, I like some healthy miscommunication for the plot. However, no one was talking. This was not healthy communication. This was not, I need to change my calendar over to December from November. Sorry. If you ever needed proof I have ADD, there it is. But it was her getting upset over something he said at her sister's wedding and like refusing to hear him out. And that's a solid 30% of the book. I don't know if she ever heard him out. I DNF'd it. Anyways, the last book I finished in November, kind of a silly one. The title does make me giggle. It's called Stuffed, A Thanksgiving Romance by Jessica Gadzela. I'm not even gonna try and butcher her last name. It's by homegirl Jessica. Look up. You'll find it for Kindle. It is a short Thanksgiving novella. There aren't too many Thanksgiving romances that aren't really weird. A lot of people write about wanting to hook up with a turkey, and listen, that's just not for me, so I don't read those. However, this is not about a supernatural turkey. This is about a young woman going home for the first time in 6 years with the anticipation of getting laid off from her job to visit her family, and she sees her old crush from when she was in high school, her brother's best friend. Do we or do we not love a brother's best friend romance? And it just is this short little novella. I think it was like 147, don't quote me, pages. It's below 200 pages. 2.5 hour read. Got it done in a night. I thought it was great. It's cute. It's spicy. It's got Thanksgiving food. It's got a cousin who was a bully getting her ass handed to her. Love that. I got a lot of cousins who were bullies. I'm still mad about it. I've gotten revenge on people decades later. Never relax. I am always plotting. Anyways. I thought it was really well done without making Thanksgiving really like weird, and it's about a bookish girl who like, yes, she's very much a nerd. I related to her on so many levels. She had like an R2-D2 paperweight. She had Hermione's wand on a shelf. She had like tortoise bookshelves from like Doctor Who. A vibe. The woman's a vibe. The brother's best friend is a jock, so it's the nerd meets the jock later in life, and they fall in love. And it's so cute. I did give it 4 stars because I wish it actually had been a 300-page book. I just wanted more. And not even more of like spice, because it has plenty of spice. However, I wanted more of like the bully cousin getting her ass to her, and I wanted more of like a resolute of the future of like, we got an epilogue and it was a great epilogue. I loved it. I loved their ending. However, I wanted to see how everybody's life sort of turned out, because we met a lot of characters but we didn't see a lot of resolve for a lot of characters. I just wish that the book was longer. I loved the story. I kind of didn't want it to end. That's why it was only 4 stars. I think I gave it like 4.6. It's not that deep. But that is the last book that I read for November. Highly recommend. It's very cute. But until next time, let me know all of the Christmas reads that you've been enjoying in the comments down below. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.